Call the meeting to order.
Best things ever.
Salute the flag, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're doing better than Milford.
Do we have a
Anybody watch
presentation?
the news?
No.
Oh, Milford students having big troubles.
Public comment.
Just a question to find out when my last meeting's questions are going to be answered.
I can answer that now if you'd like.
Thank you.
Your question was about, did the special ed teacher get back to her students?
That was
Yeah, she
one.
did, yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
The other one was on public comment. If we send it in to you, how long would it take to find out if it was going to be on the agenda?
It would be a discussion that I would have with the board chair.
Okay. And the other question was regarding if the school, I'm going hypothetical, okay?
That wasn't a question you asked before though, Beth, was it?
Yes, I had asked it, the second
Okay.
question and answer period, was that if the school ends up being in the red at the end of the school year, how do you go about getting the money
Yeah.
to end up with a zero balance?
You're gonna
You
hear-
have to go to the town?
Yeah, come here. You're going to hear about that tonight. Where I'm bringing a letter to the board about that process.
Okay, great,
So if
thanks.
you're going to stick around for a little bit, you'll hear it. If not, shoot me an email tomorrow. We can talk about it.
Okay, thank you.
Sure thing.
So that's it, I'm done.
Well, I just want to quantify what Jerry said. We hired a special ed, long-term special ed sub to cover the students for the special ed teacher that we put in a classroom.
Okay, I
So
was
they
just,
had coverage the whole time she was out.
thank you, I was just worried about the students.
Yep.
So I apologize.
That's all right.
Anyone else? Thank you. Consent agenda. Anybody want to make a motion to approve the second consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda with amendments. So already.
Or a second for discussion? Anything? Seeing none? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'll be opposed, just on that number 4 part of the agenda.
Why are you here, opposed?
Who's taking minutes?
Notice.
Oh, way over there. Didn't even see you. And you got all that?
The better chair, yeah.
Okay.
It's a better chair.
Hey, it's untaken.
Meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the public and the non-public session meeting minutes from June 4th, 2019, with any amendments offered.
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
Actually, I have one change.
Okay.
On page 4, it says adjournment. Mr. Fogg made a motion, seconded by Mrs. Fogg.
Yeah, I believe it.
So,
I caught that one after the fact.
Did you?
Sorry about that.
Disagreement.
I'm not.
Oh, adjournment, not internment?
So I'm not sure who seconded it, but it wasn't Mrs. Fogg.
I bet it was Mrs. Johnson. Were you here that night?
Adjournment. Yep.
I bet you said it.
We can figure that one
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Right to know workshop minutes?
Make a motion to accept the right to know workshop minutes with any amendments.
I second it.
Any discussion though?
They were
Motion.
excellent.
Motion? Was excellent.
Excellent workshop.
Motion
That was good.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Reports. Moving right along. Business administrators report.
Okay, on page 15, we have my standard monthly report on the status of our meals count for the month, for the current year. Letters went out to parents, informing them of the student negative balances at the end of
Thank you.
May. We have great notice that the USDA, which is United States Department of Agriculture, has a summer program that serves meals at specific sites for students under 18. And the locations are listed on the SAU 101 website to see where the locations are. That it's a drop-in. This actually tells you a schedule of times when meals will be served. And SAU staff went to several locations. The signs are posted in the school, at the town hall. One of the staff members was supposed to bring it to the food pantry, so that's all posted. So there is food available, meals available during the summer months. And it doesn't matter free or reduced or pay. You go in and it's free meals at those times. You have to be under 18, and the meals you have to eat at the location. You can't grab and go. You have to eat at the site. That's great news.
That is nice.
The capital reserve fund for May is in the packet on page 18. We wanted to inform the board that we were not able to withdraw. We had a public hearing at June 4th indicating that we would withdraw $107,000 from the special educationally disabled children trust fund. As you can see, the balance in May decreased based on the investment portfolios. So at this point, we cannot take the $107,000, but the superintendent would recommend a withdrawal of less than that, so that we and leave some money in there. So if there's a change in the balance again, it would be covered. And this really needs to be transferred into the general fund as soon as possible.
Ralph?
Will it take another public hearing to do a lesser amount?
Say it again, Ralph.
Will it take another public hearing to do a lesser amount?
I talked to our attorney, we talked to Will Phillips and asked that question. So process-wise, because we're taking a lesser amount, we were authorized $107,000 was what we talked about as a vote. We're taking less than that, and we're also leaving money in the account.
Would you like to indicate what the recommended amount that we would?
Well, there wasn't a recommended amount.
No.
I am recommending, as you can see, and I'll get to that, but it's in the letter I just handed out to you.
Oh,
but,
okay, sorry.
We'll go over that in a few minutes.
Thank you.
Okay, and then I submitted the appropriation estimate payment for the town in the packet. I am meeting with the financial, I don't know what, it should be the financial person at the town hall, and we are going to go over that schedule, and that dollar amount may change insignificantly, but there may be a change on those dollar amounts. We need to make sure that we all agree that the right payment is done. It's an estimate. It's an estimate from July to November. Once a tax rate is set, that number gets finalized on what was determined once the tax rate gets set. So that's where we are with that. And then on page 22 is our financial status as of June 13th. And Superintendent Jerry Guaguayo will speak to that at this point.
You want to bring that up on your, I'm going to put it up on the screen so it's a
I'm
little
gonna
easier.
do that for you. What is being shown is what is in the board packet.
Okay. So just kind of going over where we are today. Now these numbers might change. You're going to see the anticipated fund balance. So if you look at that first section, all the way over to the right, the last numbered column, that is your anticipated available balance. So if we look at that first line, the 1,100 in regular education,
I'm gonna now go to that,
I think you just might as well stay on that graph
stay on
there.
that, okay.
This is where the notes are. That's the 1,100, your regular education line. And you can see there that we are in a deficit in that line of $75,470.18 for unanticipated health insurance, regular ed tuition, and contracted ESOL students. So meaning that we had students come in with the ESOL students that we hadn't projected for before. I'm gonna skip the next line because that's, yeah, go ahead.
It wasn't unanticipated insurance, it was just unaccounted
No,
for.
I'm talking about the ESOL.
Okay.
The ESOL was,
insurance-
we did not have ESOL students the year before. We do this year, that was unanticipated.
The insurance was just unaccounted for.
Correct. Sir.
Just so I know, and maybe the public might know after this question, ESOL stands for?
English is the second language.
Oh, okay.
So students who are not originally English speakers.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. I'm going to skip the special ed line. I'm going to come back to that in a minute. The third line down being co-curriculum activities, salaries and benefits that were not budgeted properly, and as well as Camp Calumet came up as more. We had more students than were anticipated at the start of the school, or when we anticipated when we developed the budget. We had more sixth grade students come in. If you go down to the next line, we are rocking it with 7 cents in the black. Summer school, we have a balance of $969.82. There is nothing in the guidance of the truancy officer. That's budgeted as a flat stipend sum. I think it's $4,000, and that goes out. Yes, Ralph?
I saw the memorandum of agreement with the town and on the SRO, and part of his duties is truancy,
Yeah.
taking care of truancy issues. Why is that separate?
So, currently, when we started the budget, and before we had the SRO, we had a memorandum of agreement with the person who's our truancy officer. So that's still, remember, we didn't do the SRO until after the March election.
3 months ago.
Yes.
I thought there was some difference between the truant officer having something to do with out of town as well, like in Rochester.
I would have to look at what the truancy officer does, if they're gonna be the same. When we go through the budget process this year, we'll have to take a look at
Okay.
if there's any overlap or gaps that we would have if we didn't have a truancy
Right.
officer.
So I thought the SRO couldn't leave town, but the truant officer
That I
could.
don't know. I'd have to take a look at that. Yes, sir.
So, there's two people doing the same job, or
No,
there's
what
two
I'm saying is
people
when we developed this budget, we put the money in for a truancy officer.
Yeah.
Before we had an SRO,
Yeah.
we developed a memorandum of understanding or agreement with that truancy officer. We went through that most of the year.
Yeah.
Because again, the truancy, we wouldn't have been able to break that memorandum of agreement anyway. So what we'll do is we'll look at this for next year and ensure that if we have any overlaps, we can address that. And if we have any gaps, we'll probably have to keep it the way it is.
So, but if the memorandum of agreement with the police department calls for that SRO conducting truancy duties, I mean, and it was quite clear that that was one of his major duties. That line perhaps could be absolved, or dissolved?
Whatever again, we'll have to look at what the gaps and overlaps are in those duties.
Yeah.
And if we have an overlap, I think we could possibly look at reducing that or dissolving it altogether, depending on what the ramifications are. Make sense?
I think the officer that's been in charge has done a good job. I'm not trying to take anything away from that. I just wouldn't want to be
Yeah.
having this one
No.
job being done by two people.
We don't need that, and I would agree with you. But we'll look at what those duties are.
Thank you.
Next line, 2120, guidance social work. We have a balance of $1,620.84. Healthcare and nurse, the health and nurse, we have a deficit of $655.70. Professional development, we have a balance of $145. Excuse me. Speech services, we have a balance of 100 foot. My glasses aren't as great as these letters are small. My apology. Professional development, we have a balance of $20,093.31. Library services, we have a balance of $1,200.15. Legal services, we have our board services, we have a deficit of $24,699.11, and that's primarily for legal services. You know, it was not budgeted for to bring the attorney in for our negotiations, but I think it probably saved us some money as well. SAU admin expenses, we have a deficit of $25,647.91 due to changes in personnel. We do see a similar balance that's left in the principal line for that same reason. We have the principal, there is the principal line right after it. We have a balance of $28,744.43, again, because we had a change in personnel. Fiscal services, we have a deficit of $2,750.93. Operation maintenance, we have a deficit of $17,092.22. And regular transportation, we have a balance of $40,301.41. Special ed transportation, we have a balance of $34,899.24. Athletic student transportation, we have a deficit of $8.44. Field trip co-curricular, we have a balance of $3,597.80. Technology, we have a balance of $958.21. Disability work, workers' comp, we have a balance of $36,218.32. And transfer food funds to food service, we're in a deficit of $2,800, and we do not have anything in the transfer to capital reserve. Go back to special ed at the top, 1,200 line. We have a deficit of $418,382.70. The bottom line, we're at a deficit of $413,811.33. So the balance, really the bulk of where our deficit comes from is from special ed. While we have some deficits throughout the budget, it's a bottom line budget, and they balance themselves up. When we get to special ed, that's where the deficit occurs. So what I've given you, well, I mean, any questions about this first? Yes.
I just wanted to say that the maintenance overage is due to the sprinkler system, so the operating expense actually was quite a bit under, but Joe, the facilities manager, used the operating budget to fix the emergency sprinkler system, and there were several, I think LP gas was very, very high, and water was very, very high.
Do you know what the sprinkler system was? And there's no other contingency fund that we can balance that with?
There is no warrant articles or contingency fund at all.
That applies, that we can stretch to apply to that. Making sure.
Any other questions?
Building repair, oh, that's just for the new SAU office.
Yes.
Question.
Good job.
That 2,800 for food service, is that a negative, is that a negative hot lunch bill? The 2,800?
It's comprised of two different components, yes. Part of it is the negative student service balances.
Okay.
And the other portion is the state requires, when we fill out the national food application, that because we don't serve full paid meals to what we get in the free meals, the school district, there's a formula and a worksheet that we have to do and we have to move money from the operating budget into the food service to make up that difference.
Do you know what the breakdown is between the two? Roughly?
I can tell you. Just give me a second. Okay, so we had to transfer because we don't charge the full price.
And we changed that for next year, right?
What we had to transfer because the full price meal is less than what we get for free. We had to transfer $6,800
Okay.
to the food service, and the remainder is what was put in there is estimated for the negative balances. That number could change.
So what is that?
The difference between the 68
And the 28, so 4,000?
Yeah.
But,
Yep. And just so as a reminder to the board, when we were doing the budget, preparing the budget for fiscal year 20, we actually reduced that line from 14 to 10. So that means that line for next year is less than what is currently in the budget.
didn't we increase the cost of lunches so that we'll meet the requirements from the state now?
We're still charging $3 a meal.
And that's what it needs to be? Weren't we
That's the-
close?
We're at $285. Going forward, it's going to be $285.
Ralph?
Last week, in the local news, there was a story about $100 million at the state education fund level that hasn't yet been dispersed. Is the school district here making any applications for any of that funding that was over appropriated?
That's based on the formula that the state is calculating,
Yeah.
based on what their pot of money that they have, then
Yeah.
it gets distributed accordingly to the formula that they have.
Right.
So.
Based on the needs of the district,
All the
right?
districts who qualify for adequate education grant
Yeah,
would be part of that pool.
and we do.
We don't know what that amount is.
But we do qualify for that education.
Yes.
Thank you.
So as you see in front of you, I handed out a letter that's addressed to the Commissioner of Education, Frank Edelbrook. This is part of that process that I was talking about in regard to how we go about addressing this deficit that we have in the budget. So as I said, we have a deficit of approximately $413,000. And I say approximately because we won't know the full extent of it until the end of the year we close the books out. In there, we're required to identify to the Commissioner of Education what we have for a deficit, why we have a deficit, and how we're going to address that deficit. So I've identified that we have a $413,000 deficit, which again, directly correlates to our $418,000 overage in special ed in the 1200 line. So how we're going to address that is, as you fully are aware, we had a warrant article in the March vote, warrant article number 6 for $200,000. We have a special education trust that I'm hoping that we're going to take $105,000 out. I'd like to leave a little in there, just enough to keep it going. We also have unanticipated general fund revenue of $17,063. We also have an additional food service revenue, and we're not quite sure what that number is going to be yet. That we can get a better idea as after July 1, we have some bills that will have to get paid, but we'll be addressing that as soon as we get a better number. I don't want to throw a number out there and have people hold us to it, that we have this money, because I just don't know how much it's going to be. Yes, sir.
So with this letter, it looks like we have some monies with the warrant Article 6 being approved, that $200,000. The amended number of 105 coming from the Education Trust Fund. The unanticipated general fund revenue, can you explain to me where well, maybe you don't have the information yet, but where would...
Right here in front of you.
It's right, it's in
Under
that
the
second
revenues.
section
No,
on
this
page
thing, Ralph.
22.
Ralph, this thing?
No,
This one, it's under the revenue section right here. See, it's
Okay, all
highlighted
right,
right
all
there.
right. We didn't get to that part of Jerry's
no,
presentation.
I didn't go, I was only bringing to you the deficit.
Okay, so to be determined, when you go in front of the budget committee, you're really looking for closer to $22,000 to help cover that 413.
No, we're looking for closer to just over $90,000.
322, 413, and this accounts for 322, so that's about 90.
Yeah, I got
offsetting
320.
whatever the food service.
And again,
revenue.
that's an estimate for right now. That's better than a guess, but, we're looking at what we've spent in the past, where we are right now, what we anticipate to come back for our expenses. We just don't know what that's going to be. So this is the first step in that process. We have to do this first. Send the, and nothing will be approved until we meet with the budget committee, and it sounds like I haven't seen the email yet, but it sounds like we have something that I'll be checking after the board meeting, that they've scheduled some meeting. So they have to sign off by a majority of the budget committee. The board has to sign off. I'm going to ask you to all sign this tonight. I will sign this. It has to come from either the superintendent on behalf of the school board, or it can come from the school board. But I think it'd be great if we all sign that tonight and sent that off. We'll have that meeting, but nothing can be done until we have approval from the budget committee.
What happens if they don't approve it?
If it doesn't get approved, my understanding is that it will be addressed by DRA in the fall.
DRA stands for Department
Department of Revenue
Administration.
When did you first contact the budget committee?
Early part of June,
Early part of June.
June 3rd,
And today is June
18th,
18th?
correct.
That's a long time.
There's also a deadline that this application has to be sent to the Commissioner of Education. It has to be done by June 30th of this year.
I was in on the first, so as the budget liaison, so this is, and then I never heard anything back.
I have been trading emails directly with Mr. O'Connor.
And keeping us CC'd, right?
I think the emails that have gone back and forth have been between Mr. O'Connor and I. The first one was addressed to an awful lot of people.
I got it as part
I
of
think
the-
you probably got it as
As
the
a
budget,
budget
because I was
committee
sending
member.
it as a request directly to the budget committee.
Right. And as a budget committee member, that was quite a while
Yeah,
ago.
and I reached out to Attorney Barbara Lohman, and you guys all got the email I sent today, response, to
Okay.
clarify it.
Yeah, and that response that you got is basically what we were already doing here. So this will go, I will hopefully send this out tomorrow, as long as we have everybody signed.
It has to go as a packet.
As a packet, okay, excuse me. But we'll get this out so we can, but the most important part is that it has to get the approval from the budget committee and the board.
And it has to be done in June.
Has to be done very quickly,
Yes, it does.
or else we don't know what.
Well, again, speaking with the DRA today as well as the DOE. Go ahead.
So we found to meet with the budget committee, and then we have to submit it to the DRA before
DOE,
June,
the DOE.
Department of Ed,
No,
before
Yep,
the 30th.
yep.
That's not a lot, that's 12 days.
That's not a lot of time.
That's 10 days.
Mhm.
Wow.
Ralph?
You only need a majority of the board to sign off on this?
What's clear is that is a majority of the budget committee and the school board. It does not say majority of the school board, it says the school board.
Would it be detrimental if I choose not to sign it? I mean, I've asked for some information, and I'm still waiting for information, and I'd like to support this, but without that information, I have a hard time, I can't wrap my head around how it all happened, so,
What questions have you asked that haven't been answered?
legal stuff.
Not regarding this, not.
No.
Okay,
I mean, a lot.
The legal questions that you've asked me in a 91A are completely separate from this here.
Now, when you look at it, the idea of everything being a bottom line budget, you can take monies from one line to another, and the whole thing kind of blows up. So I just
I just want to say, at the risk of saying, it was sounding somewhat contrary, that this here has nothing to do with the non-meeting that your current 91A is about.
No, it'd be the 91A before the last one.
But I've answered.
You're on your second 91A?
Yeah.
Sounds like he's in his third.
Third
I
91A.
just want to make sure that right there,
Yeah.
and the answers that you've been able to supply, you have supplied you with.
Yeah, no, there's some things that have been answered,
Okay.
certainly, and, but I'm just
Yep,
saying that I
okay, I just want to
can't-
make sure that was clear.
I'm hoping that my lack of a signature doesn't stop the process. I don't believe it will. I believe a majority of the board, if they sign it, they
I
support it.
would think so, it's
Yeah.
just not spelled out as a majority of the board, although it is spelled out as a majority of the budget committee.
Yeah,
Right?
It's not relevant.
right, thank you.
No, what I was gonna say is not relevant, not you.
Oh.
What I was gonna say is not relevant.
No, I know, I'm not.
Any questions about this letter?
I just want to say that we, the four of us, have followed along, and we have, since it got delayed during the budget process, we've known that special ed has had a very, very tough year for a very long time. I have all the stacks of all of the accounts. I know them by heart just about. I know where they were. I know when we have a sprinkler system, and I know when the facilities changes. I know that Brennan's account has been saving us. I know where it's been. I know where it's gone. I've been in Marie's office, as does everybody else here on this board. We have, everybody has,
Don't say everybody else on this board.
except for
because-
Ralph. The four of us have watched everybody struggle, try and contain costs, try and do what they can. Anne has definitely worked very, very hard in the special ed, knowing that it was quite a year for that. And I'm proud to be part of the group that made it through this.
Just gonna go back, again, the goal here is to, I don't know where we're gonna end up with the food service, but to reduce the amount of money that we have to go back to the taxpayers for. Because we have bills that will have to be paid. And so, given this authority to expend the warrant article, the special ed trust, and any other revenues that we have, will greatly reduce what we have to go back to the taxpayers, and that's the ultimate goal here.
I support that goal.
Yeah, I thought you would.
Right.
As another point of knowledge is that because we are in a deficit of close, well, right now, we know we're in a deficit of 300,000, we anticipate we're gonna be about 400,000, that it was not budgeted for. So, which this indicates that there's more expenses than we anticipated. So the finance department, business office, is closely watching the invoices that we are mailing for cash flow purposes. We are actually cutting checks for the expenses because the district is liable for those expenses for services that have been performed. We are looking at it very closely. Anything that there's a late fee attached to, we are going to mail out, but we have to stay within the parameter of our cash flow. So just want the board to be aware that we are going to be holding back certain invoices in order to make sure that we don't overexpend our finances.
Good, Ann.
So on the special ed line, under FY 2018-2019, encumbered, is that what we have left encumbered in special ed?
Correct.
That's what we have left as of this budget, encumbered in special ed.
Yes, and if you look at your report that's attached to this, and I'll tell you what page. If you look at page 25 of the report, it actually shows what makes up the $236,000. There are still salaries and benefits that need to be paid out through the end of June. So they're encumbered because people are still working. And once those checks are issued, then if there's any dollars remaining, it would be page 20, right here, page 25. So that's what the encumbrances mean, that we have contracts out there that need to be paid, that were issued for staff, or contracted services. We have special education tuition, is still encumbered of $18,000. We haven't received that last invoice yet, so we cannot release that money. That invoice could come in lower, or it could also come in higher. This is what we thought we were going to be paying, and that's what we encumbered. The other lines for the middle school and high school, you can see there's dollars encumbered there. Those are because there's actual expenses that we know based on individuals that are there that we have to pay. So once those invoices, we receive them and we cut a check for them, that money will now move from encumbered to paid, to actual.
So when can we expect salaries, the salary and benefit piece to be?
July 1st, because there are people working through the last week of June, and they're hourly employees, and I know that.
Special ed?
Well, special ed has the, they also have incentives for buyback. They have incentive day buybacks. So we cannot pay out the incentive day buybacks until we know how many incentive days they have left. Same thing with teachers. They have attendance stipends they get if they have 100% attendance, and we don't have that until the last day of school, which is Friday.
So I'm gonna go out on a limb and just say that that's good news if that's how much we have encumbered in special education. It's just going out on a limb.
Well,
So your good news, and I think I hear what you're saying, that 236, that's certainly going to be a smaller number on July 1st, but it may
There'll be nothing encumbered, by July 1st,
Yeah.
that encumbered line will be zero. It's either gonna be paid, or the money is gonna be released.
it won't help offset the 418.
Well, it all
Could.
depends.
Could.
Explain what released means.
What?
Could you explain what released means?
Well, if we, let's take something small here. Let's take the 70, the line that has high school private tuition, that's $7,260.
Okay?
And the invoice comes in at $7,000. We're gonna pay the $7,000, and the $260 will no longer appear. It'll help the remaining balance. That's extra money that we didn't have to pay.
Right.
Now, if we go the other way, we could get an invoice for $8,000.
Okay?
So then it's gonna make that number greater than what we see there. That's why it's still in an influx, and we're getting down to the wire. We can get invoices for the current year, probably through the end of April. I mean, end of July, sorry.
Yeah,
End
okay.
of July,
Yeah,
that pertain to June.
sure. You could almost expect them,
Correct.
but that's still the encumbered balance of 236, that is still some light at the end of the tunnel.
In my opinion, it is. knowing
It could
my-
go either way, is what she's telling you.
Yeah.
Some of the bills that may be underestimated.
I'll see it as a positive.
Right, but it could go either way. You need to see reality is that some bills could be underestimated, some could be over.
Yeah.
If they're overestimated, then the amount remaining will go down. If they have been underestimated, then the amount that we're gonna be in debt is gonna go higher.
Well, I can tell you that I can clearly state that out-of-district placements and contracted services are not gonna be over.
You've gotten all the bills, you know that they've gotten all the
We
bills to date?
We have minimal bills coming in at this point.
Okay. Good.
I would rather be pleasantly surprised.
I know, I'm just going out on a limb and saying
I
it's
don't-
possible.
Yes.
What I want to avoid is giving people this false sense of hope that we're going to have an awful lot more money, and I'd rather downplay it right now, and again, like you, Tracy, be pleasantly surprised, but I don't want people to think that we're going to say, oh, we're going to have another $100,000 here or $50,000 there. We don't know where we are with this final on special. We know what's encumbered. We don't know where we are with that food service. And so we'll find out, and as soon as we do, I will inform the board.
So I will let the board know that when we receive the $105,000 from the trust fund, it needs to be applied to the 1,200 line. So, because the high school tuition currently is at $121,000 deficit, and there's only a $7,000 remaining encumbrance there, that's where the 105 will be applied. So that number, the next time you see it, the 105 will then, so where you see the $236,000 where it says paid to date, that $236,000 would be less by $105,000, because that's where we're gonna be applying the trust fund money to.
Where?
The encumbrance of
What
special ed.
makes that decision, Marie?
What?
How is that decision made? How is it not that everything is cleaned up in one, and a balance is left in one category instead? Like, why do you go after the big one and not clean it all up?
It's easier to track for tracking purposes. If the board chooses to do that, but if when somebody asks, where did the trust fund transfer occur? It's at one place. And if the board chooses that they want to split the 105 in different areas, we will abide by that.
I just wondered if it's not, if
Tracy?
hoping we do meet all our debts, if it's not easier to have one outstanding than 15.
As a warrant article for special ed, I think it has to go to special ed.
Well, this is all special ed, this is all 1,200.
Right, all 1,200.
Right, I'm just wondering why it's going to be applied to the big one, not clean up it all and leave one balance on one account. Do you know what I mean?
Which line is it being applied to?
So that if we were to default on something, we wouldn't have
55,640.
multiple creditors that we're defaulting on, we would have one.
Yeah.
I think the
I think that's
language
better, right?
honestly speaks to, I think the language of the trust suggests that it's out-of-district placements that it should apply to, so that makes sense to apply
I
to
don't know,
them.
we'd
I
have to
don't
make
I
sure
don't know that
we
either.
obviously.
Oh,
And there are some of the elementary and middle school placements, even though it says private, none of that's in the district. Everything's out of district for those other numbers. The other two lines above the high school line.
It says private, when it says private, it's out of district.
Out of district, okay. All right, thank
Yep,
you.
those 3 lines are private.
Thank you.
okay, Tracy.
I would like to make sure we follow the guidelines. Obviously, I don't have to say that to you guys, but to make sure we follow the guidelines of the warrant article to the letter.
So just so that the next meeting, you will see a reduction in the 1,200
Yep.
line by the $105,000 trust fund once it gets transferred.
Yep.
So I'm going to hand around the letter that I'm asking you to sign to go to Commissioner Edelblut. If you're,
Just thinking if I signed it in purple.
You want the same pen or no?
no, that's okay. Unless you want to sign it.
Wait, you want to borrow my purple one? I didn't realize it was
Might-
purple.
Actually, before we do any signing, you folks might want to make a motion in a second and actually take board action to sign the letter. I think that might be a proper thing to do.
All right, lovely letter. I make a motion to sign the letter to Commissioner Edelblut, informing him that we have an over expenditure of approximately $413,000.
I'll second it. But I'm not going to sign it.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Should it be on Blue Read?
Doesn't matter.
If they wish to disregard my signature because it's in purple, they may, then I'll be on Mr. Fogg's team.
Thank you for taking care of this, Jerry.
Sir.
And I believe that's the end of my report.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you.
Principal report, discipline report, enrollment.
You've been coughing over there. Are you okay?
Yeah, my allergies are crazy right now.
Oh,
In the sunburn.
And a sunburn to boot.
Is that your field day sunburn?
Yeah.
It's not our role model yesterday for
Well, I sprayed my neck, my face, my ears, my head, and why I didn't just do one extra, I don't know.
Sure want to sue.
But thank you for bringing it up, because my wife wasn't enough last night.
Now they said it on camera.
She doesn't watch these, I assume.
We'll send her a prayer.
Yeah. 45 minutes into the meeting.
So principal's report is on page 51. The window for state testing has ended and the initial scores are in. To this point, they are deemed the initial scores because there's potential for movement with other schools' late submissions. Once final scores have been posted, we'll send individual student results home and we'll present the data to you, the board. The initial results were shared with the Curriculum and Assessment Committee. So where they may fluctuate up or down, we feel more solid that if, waiting till it's final and then we'll roll it out to everybody.
Are the little things that they see on the screen when they're done pretty accurate? They get little, right? Don't they read them as they finish up their test?
Are you talking student?
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure.
That's for me, not
Oh,
for.
me was different, okay.
The school schedule for next year has been rolled out to staff, and some of the biggest changes include starting the day with a morning meeting for grades K to 5 and an advisory for grades 6 to 8. This time is considered ideal for social emotional learning, making connections, and building trust. At this point, the schedule is version 2.0 with 3.0 to come back tomorrow. So we wanted to roll it out like here's what we would like to have, but then we wanted feedback as well. So that's where version 2.0 came, and now version 3.0, so that everyone feels heard and we're all on the same page that what is in place is maybe not exactly what you want, but you've been heard. And we put our best foot forward to accommodate everybody as best we can, and at the same time doing what we feel is important.
Is that for students and staff, or is it just staff that have that?
Well, it'll impact both,
It'll be-
so it'll be the next year's schedule. So
Like old-fashioned homeroom?
no, different. So smaller, much more intimate. So an advisory would have like somewhere between 6 to 8 students. So you have no choice but to make intimate connections during that time. And it's a time to be, we're hoping it's a time to be vulnerable so that your experience is that much better here because you've opened yourself up to being vulnerable and you feel close enough with not only the staff member, but the students within your group. So we're looking forward to that. Mr. Soul reports it was a busy week in DC for our National History Day competitors. They got to meet kids from around the country. They practiced essential skills like public speaking and presentation of evidence to prove thesis, sightsee in and around the Capitol, and they met both of our senators. The 5 students in attendance all represented the school really well. So they get results actually mailed back to them. So final results aren't exactly in, but we'll know shortly.
Nice.
Mr. Soul will share that with us, and we can in turn share that with you when it's done. But all in all, it seems to have been a successful trip, and positive feedback across the board. We've been actively interviewing candidates for our open positions, which include a 5th grade classroom teacher and an 8th grade math teacher. We received several applicants, and we've interviewed in 2 stages. In stage 1, a committee interviewed the candidates. Then in round 2, we invited candidates to come back and teach a 30-minute lessons to our students. So this 2-part process has kind of helped us get to know candidates better. So not only what do you think and what type of game do you talk, but we wanted to put them in front of our students and see what they actually bring to the table. So
Is the current 8th grade teacher that was the fill-in, is he part of that?
he reapplied, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the only other position we have open currently is for a library media specialist. The job has been posted and we've received candidates both internal and external, and we're in the process of scheduling interviews now. It's the busiest time of the year. I would like to have it done already, but it just hasn't been done yet. But it's on the list. At our most recent community day, our staff member of the month was recognized, and I'm happy to report that this month it was Deb Wilson.
Nice.
So Deb Wilson was our
Nice.
staff member of the month, as nominated by other staff members in the school.
She was parking in the employee parking too.
Ready?
Oh, yeah. I tried to throw her out of it, but she wouldn't have.
We held our Memorial Day barbecue and Memorial Day assembly on May 24. It was well attended. We served around 30 lunches to current and past military members, and our students did a really nice job exhibiting the Memorial Day presentations. I misspoke, and Mr. Gregoire thankfully called me out on it, but I was calling it a Memorial Day celebration.
Oh,
In my mind, thinking we're getting together and celebrating all this great work that the students are bringing forth, but Memorial Day is not a day to celebrate.
oh, celebrate
Uh,
memories, you can do
Yeah,
that.
well, but anyway, I misspoke, so I own that. But all in all, the day was a success.
Did a great job.
Can I just say one thing about that?
Sure.
I was so touched by the fact that we had staff members that stood up as veterans. It was really nice to see.
That is great.
A double
Maybe
thank
next
you
year
to
we
them.
could read who they are,
Yeah.
the staff members who are veterans. I'd be interested to know that.
The turnout exceeded my expectations 3 or 4-fold. I had no idea what the turnout would be like, but we had, 2 sets of bleachers almost filled with just,
Great.
parents and community members, which was awesome. Wakefield graduating seniors visited on Thursday, June 13. Our current students lined the hallways and cheered as the graduating seniors walked around the school. And I thought it was worth noting that several of the graduating seniors were wearing honor cords, which are awarded to members of honor societies and other various academic and non-academic achievements, awards, and honors. I've been told that a former Paul School student was a recipient of the New Hampshire Scholars Award for Math, and that 2 former Paul School students graduated in the top 10 of this year's graduating class.
Very nice. Congratulations to them.
There was a student that received a New Hampshire Scholar for Art Award too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
And then upcoming dates, we have graduation tomorrow for 8th grade, preschool graduation tomorrow, kindergarten graduation Thursday, our award ceremony Thursday, and Friday is our last day of school, step up day, and it's a half day.
So tomorrow you want all the school board bid?
If you guys can be there, I think it would be great.
Love to see it.
We just have one slacker.
Yeah, I'm sorry. My parents are moving tomorrow in Connecticut, and I was there last year and loved it. I
I'm
missed
just
it.
kidding you, you know that.
I am. I'm very disappointed.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Would I be able to get like an informal RSVP at this
Okay.
point, just for planning?
Just for the program, basically.
I'd like to be there.
Ms. Johnson, you want to
We get to hand out the diplomas again like we did last year?
Friday
Do we get to hand out diplomas
No.
or shake their hands or whatever? Like, we shook hands, right?
Yeah.
I like that.
But we don't have to be up on the stage.
Yes.
I mean,
You
we can-
do.
Come on.
we did
You have to wear a suit and tie.
Shake their hands.
Well, tie, baby.
Jerry, you got a suit and tie I can borrow?
I got one I wore yesterday.
Portly?
Oh, you-
It's gotta be Portly.
It's got a great one we wore yesterday in the dunk pool.
I mean,
Ralph, come as you are.
well, I wouldn't wanna be on the stage, because really, I don't wanna be on the stage. I
Just
think
congratulate
maybe I could be in the front row cheering and clapping.
That's your choice.
Thank
Just
you.
congratulating them on a job well done.
Well, on
I know.
it was Friday
Friday
night that Mr. Gregoire and I attended the Spalding High
I was
School
there.
graduation. And we were on stage and we were able to get some of our kids, hand them their diplomas as they went across the stage. And it was very, very well done.
It was exceptionally
Thank
well
you.
done.
Thank you for doing that.
We went in with the expectation of handing out more diplomas to Wakefield students, just about the way it's set up. It's hard to get up there and jump in between every other student. So we really handed them out in blocks. So we were, a couple of blocks, we were to hand out a couple of diplomas to some of our students from Wakefield. And which I think it's nice just to be there. I will say that, I spoke with Mr. Hopkins, the current superintendent. He said it was the first time we've had a superintendent from Wakefield do that. And again, that's not.
Thank you.
That's not. I'm just saying that I think it's nice for us to be there to acknowledge our students, and they were appreciative of our being there.
I think it's good that the Wakefield kids aren't separated out, so it was difficult to give them, because that way
Yeah.
they're just part of the
No.
Spalding High School class.
I don't disagree. I'm just saying, I went there with an expectation.
I was looking at the positives.
But it was just, so we'll try to work it a little better next year. It was the first time we've done it, so we'll make it work better. And my conversation with the superintendent,
It was a fantastic ceremony.
it really was.
One last piece not in here was that the athletic director, the fall Spalding coaches, as well as Justin, the principal of Spalding High School, came here to visit as well. And Justin told me this was one of the first times he had come and kind of toured the facility, so he knows, more directly what our kids are coming from once they get there. So it was kind of cool to sit and chat with him for a while.
We are planning more of those between us going to Rochester and Rochester coming here next year quarterly.
I love it.
Yeah, I think they should have contact with the kids. Are they doing that?
Well, they did, and I'll let Jim speak to that. Jim, I know what they've done in the
Oh,
past.
so we have our fantastic soccer coach lined up for the fall still, right? We get our 3rd year out of him.
We'll see.
He told me he'd give 3 years. It'd be good to have the soccer coach from Rochester, the girls or boys, or both, come up and see that in action, you know?
Challenging with their own practice schedule and their game
I
schedule.
know,
That's
but you
just
know,
saying.
life's
it's-
challenge. It would be good for them to see that they're coming from something well organized. He does
yeah.
a fantastic
He
job.
does a good job.
You know, maybe give him a heads up that we have some serious soccer players coming his way.
Yeah.
Noted.
Duly noted?
Just noted, just noted.
That's just where he minded, but.
Oh, it is a really good thing to, I mean,
I
it's a
don't
great
disagree
program.
with it at all.
Gotta brag about those good ones.
Discipline, yeah.
All right, so the discipline report is on page 53 and 54. We had 63 total referrals for the month of May, and 13 of them, there were 13 repeat offenders, basically, so the same students that were receiving multiple office referrals in a variety of locations. So when you look at the graphs, referrals by location, the most recent month, May, is on the top of each section. So it still remains in the classroom in terms of the highest number of referrals. You can look by the grade level breakdown to see where the majority of the referrals are coming from.
Wow. So it's an ongoing issue. It hasn't been a quick cure, huh?
Is that both grades?
Both classes?
Both classes?
Yeah, so that number in referrals by grade represents the entire 5th grade. And there's definitely been a shift, so it's coming now from, you know, the other half of 5th grade, for the most part.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So there have definitely been some growth and some positives, but there's other students that are in need, and I think we were very purposeful in, you know, planning for class placement for next year to help support that grade. And then referrals by behavior on the next page. Physical aggression, so not quite fighting, but just acting physically, being physical, was the highest number of behaviors, followed by non-compliance. And so our PBIS teams are looking at, both the universal team and the targeted team are looking at starting with non-compliance and physical aggression in terms of developing lesson plans to give to teachers for the upcoming school year so that we can explicitly teach the behavior, the common language, you know, K to 8, what that's going to look like. If you're in this place, what is that behavior? If you're in this place, what does that behavior look like? So that's kind of the plan that will take us into the summer, definitely, to continue developing that. So every teacher will be given lesson plans to use at the start of school and throughout, not just in the beginning, but to reteach and be able to help students be reminded of what those expectations are. Where the targeted team is also looking at identifying what our behavior supports are for tier 1, 2, and 3 students. So if we've identified a student based on a certain number of referrals and a time frame, so let's say they need tier 3 supports, what are those supports? Who's providing it? How are we tracking that? So that, you know, like we support students academically, we need to do that behaviorally as well.
How does that go, tier 1, 2, and 3? What's the,
So
that's my question.
tier 1, was that your question?
Yes. Could you explain tier 1, 2,
Yep.
and 3?
Yeah, so tier 1 is what's being provided for every student. So every student is going to, for example, the behavior rollouts at Community Day, teaching the behavior matrix, the lesson plans that will happen. Every student is going to hear that in every classroom. And then tier 2 supports start to become a little bit more individualized. So for many students, that will be enough. The rollouts, the explicit teaching in the classrooms, and they know the behaviors and they can meet those behaviors. But for some students that isn't enough, and so they might require something more like a lunch group every now and then to reinforce these skills, or practice different scenarios, how to react appropriately, things like that. And then for some students, that isn't enough and they need a little bit more and some more individualized support. So it might be a daily check-in and check-out with one person. It could be jump in.
You want me to jump in? I know, I saw you looking at me.
Some other, that's what we're in the process of developing, and so we did start with tier 1, what are we doing for everybody, so that
So
everybody
tier
can get
1
on the
is
same
least
page.
intervention, tier 3 is the most intervention.
Yeah, so you
Got it.
hope that 80% of your
Right.
school population will fall within tier
Tier
1.
one.
And
I think
the
the
3 to 5% should be that tier 3.
That's great.
So.
I think the most, the tier 2 intervention that we're going to be able to provide next year that's going to be most valuable is the check-in, check-out.
Yep. And then the universal team, we wrapped up our End Strong initiative. So because non-compliance had been a focus over the past couple months, anytime students were caught being cooperative and being compliant, they earned a raffle ticket. And then at the end of the week, for the past 2 Fridays, we raffled off some Wizards gear, basketball, stuff like that, so they could be entered to win that.
It looks like this one didn't compete for that.
And as long as they had 1 or fewer write-ups specifically for non-compliance, they got to go in the bounce house yesterday for 30 minutes, which was a lot of fun. Any other questions about any of that?
Was field day successful?
Yeah, it went really well. Thanks. Mr. Regler got in the dunk tank in his
You got
suit.
a dunk tank? Did you have a different suit for that?
I did,
That was the one he offered to Ralph.
I know, but I didn't know where it started.
Shrink it.
Well, I gotta be honest, I picked up a cheap suit at a secondhand shop. And I wore
Choice.
that into the dunk tank, so
Good choice.
it was kind of fun. Got a little chilly though, being covered in a wet cloth for a couple hours. That wind coming through.
That's awesome.
Enrollment? You already said that? 474.
Yeah.
Did it go down one from the last report? Was it 475 last time?
At all?
474 the last time? Oops.
Does it feel like it's gone down? Mr. Lindbron?
Yes and no. With the field trips, though, the building
Yeah.
itself
You
has
can
been
feel
Well, yeah.
lighter.
8th grade was gone
Yeah.
for a week, yeah.
6th grade was going for a week, and
Sure.
there's been day trips and stuff, so it has actually felt more open.
Nice.
Thank you. Transportation report?
To speak on the trips, we did 15 field trips in the past month. This says we still have 1 to go. We actually just did that one today. The 6th grade went to Province Lake today to do their fun thing. They seem to enjoy it. So it's been a busy month of scheduling, trying to make sure that everybody gets out and everybody's where they need to be on time with that. But I think that all the students had fun, and it's worth every little struggle to see them come back from their field trips. So I'm very grateful to be able to send staff on those and just to see the fact that we can do it. We did the summer school is underway, so I've prepared the summer school routes, and letters should be going out on stop times to parents by the end of this week. And we seem to be doing good with that.
Did how many kids in summer school?
What was that?
How many kids are in summer school that need to take a bus? That's just like to me.
I don't know the number off the
Okay.
top of my head. I
If that's a
know that-
required thing, is to provide them transportation to summer school?
So for extended school year, it is a required.
So that's not, right, it's not regular, okay.
But
Yeah.
the way we developed extended school year for students with disabilities this year was more of a tutorial model, so that they're not here for 3 hours, 3 days a week. If they don't need 3 hours, 3 days a week, we also offered, we asked if parents wanted to drive their children versus take transportation, and we had some that said yes, so I think we'll see our numbers in the summer, the special ed portion of summer programming down this year. Title I, I don't know the answer to whether or not Title I requires transportation.
But it's figured into the grant.
That's right, thank you, Jerry. It's figured into the grant, so we write the transportation into the grant.
So we specifically get money for that, it doesn't bother the
Right.
budget at all?
Correct.
Correct. So I do have those going out, and then, I did the roster, which is, we have to be rostered through Troop D for pupil transportation in order to drive buses, and that's cleared for 1920. So our drivers are all current to continue on through the next school year. And that's about it.
I would like to say that my kid takes one of her buses, and the bus driver's fantastic. We like her, and it's nice to be able to trust somebody with the, safety of my kid. That's good.
Ralph?
So we had a subcommittee meeting earlier today on the transportation, and a question was posed, and I think it should come to the board. Could we consider amending some start and ending times of the school day so that the buses providing transportation for the high school can always be on time for the elementary school? It seems to be a growing problem, and I think we all agreed that it would be an issue for the school board to either put on another agenda maybe soon, or at least know that it's a request and should be considered.
How often is that a problem?
Every day.
There's a bus late every day?
No, the bus isn't late every day, but the academic school day ends at 3. So the first group of buses will be there at 3:05, 3:10-ish. And then there goes the first wave of students. And the last bus is typically, students are dismissed 3:20, 3:25-ish. So we have teachers basically babysitting from 3 to 3:20. And 20 minutes of, unstructured time can create challenges. This has come up at staff meetings, and we see pros, of course. There would be less unstructured time, buses more readily available. Not really a con, but a challenge that we would need to be prepared for is the challenge of parents that can only drop their kids off at 7:45 or 8, no matter when the school day starts. So we would have to proactively put something into place in the morning.
And so that becomes an issue, I can say, when your kid is more than 13 years old, right? Because you can't go to a daycare. Like I can't drop my older child off. I could right now because she's still young enough. But next year I would not be able to drop her off at a local daycare because they're licensed until they're, I think it's 12 years, 364 days old. So my kid would have to walk 2 miles on a back dirt road to take the bus in the morning by herself. I have, and I always scoff at people who did this, I have twice this year dropped her off as long as there are other people. And I sit in the parking lot sometimes and wait, so it is an issue that real people have, because what do you do with that 13-year-old? You can't really leave them home alone under certain circumstances, and the school day doesn't start till 8:15.
You said you would address that. That the early start, the early
We
figuring
would
the
have,
later,
for this
you
to
would
work, we would have to.
That he would have to.
Are we
address
talking
that.
about early, extending the whole school day?
I was
Or-
thinking 8:45 to now 3:15 instead of 8:30
It
to 3.
is.
Oh, God, that would be awful.
It is going to be.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. It's going to be on the next agenda.
Okay.
Okay.
Because if we're going to address this, the sooner the better, so we can get this information out to people. But no, you're talking about keeping the amount of the school day the same length, but starting a little later,
Shifting 15.
ending a little later.
Speaking as a parent who works in the morning, that's gonna cause chaos. Who can get from Wakefield to any, city in time to start a workday
Yeah.
if the kid is at school at 8:45? That's not gonna be
That's that morning piece that we're talking about.
That's what we have to talk about.
Right.
We need to address the
Putting
issue.
that out there for you now.
Yeah.
No, well, we know, because again, been here long enough that we've had issues where the school day doesn't start until 8:15, and we can pull in at 7:30, and there's 2 little guys sitting on the bench, and then by the time it's 8 o'clock, and again 15 minutes before people go on duty, there are half a dozen, 10, 15 kids outside, and it varies depending on the weather.
There was a time when Paul's school offered before and after school care.
And I offered that my first or
Before-
second year.
before school,
Before,
yeah.
before care.
But it was
and
pay.
It was because we didn't have, again, the way the contract was developed, we didn't have staff to man
Do
that.
that. Maybe we need to consider that in the next negotiations, because, so the year Kate was born, we had a student here, and he participated in
Yeah.
before and after school care. That was not a fee-based.
Yeah, it's open it, again, I'm gonna speak with Jim, but, you know, in the past, we've been open to doing that. It just hasn't been well received, and
Well
again, it was
utilized,
a
right.
fee-based, but again, it's a concern when we have kids who are unsupervised.
I just think we could extend the school day and then get out even earlier in June.
But then you're looking at a contractual issue.
What
Yes,
else
I
do you
know,
have?
I know.
Anything else? That's it?
Oh,
Thank you.
Facilities report. Joe.
All right, good, mind if I move up there?
you know,
So our water test that's mandated by the state of New Hampshire came back, and we have 3 areas that are higher than the normal EPA standards. And it's not the water, it's what's back in the walls. It's most likely coming from the solder because we replaced all of our faucets already. So there are a couple of options that we have. I'm talking with the state right now on that, and it will most likely end up bringing a plumber in. Right now, the easy fix to it is to have a sign up that says potable water, drink, wash your hands only, do not drink.
how dangerous is the extra lead to washing your hands? I mean, it absorbs through your skin.
The state of New Hampshire has directed me on putting up a sign and that there's no ramifications from washing your hands with that water. So, we'll be posting these to the website. They have to be posted, the results, so that's gonna be posted. And I'll keep you abreast on where we're at and where we're headed.
Tracy.
How do you know that, I know the pipes that they're doing with the water system in town, and I had heard that they have solder problems too.
Mhm.
So why are we so sure that it is exclusively the school and not also maybe partly the water?
Because it was directly coming from these specific faucets. We did 28 tests. You have to let it sit for 6 hours, turn it on, and then we logged and categorized that tap water, where it came from, what time it came from there, and then all that went to the lab. The lab sent it all back in a report.
Okay.
Well,
There were 3 specific faucets, is that what I read in the email?
You did.
And it had never tested that high before in the past? I mean, do you think it's with those 3 specific faucets?
We've never had to test for it before.
Oh,
This is mandated by the state. This is the first time because of everything that happened out in Michigan.
yep.
That's where it's coming from. So this year now will be every 5 years we're gonna have to test,
So,
Specifically for lead?
specifically for lead and copper. The lead and copper will be tested for higher elevators.
so what kind of time frame do we have to fix this?
Right now with the state, it looks like there's plenty of time. Right now we're covered by putting the sign up because they're in bathrooms, they're not drinking water from there, but us doing our due diligence, the way the town of Wakefield and the school board and all of that works, I imagine we'll probably be taking care of it in the next budget season.
Jen?
I think, so you're saying all you have to do is put up a sign in the bathroom?
And that's already happened.
So what about the kindergartners, first graders, or anybody else who can't read that sign? I think something should go home to parents that they know that their kids shouldn't be drinking out of their hands or filling their water bottles out of the faucet because
That's
we have
gonna be
little
directed
kids.
to the superintendent. because
We
that's
did
what
that already?
we're-
I didn't get one.
You
Okay.
will be, that's what we wanted to bring it to you and talk about it here first.
Parents need to know that.
Tracy?
Can we turn, if there's water fountains, can we turn them off?
There's no water fountains that are over the levels. It's in 3
Wash and
bathrooms.
sink.
It's in 3 bathroom sinks.
Okay.
Are there any water fountains near the levels? Do you know that? You have that information?
They're not, so the way the state of New Hampshire likes to make this work is 15, it's like picocuries per liter. It's scientist laboratory things that go into it. And all of our stuff, a lot of it is at 1, 2, there's a few areas that are elevated. And you guys will be able to see that because it's going to be on the website.
So it basically looks low except for the 3 places.
It does. And it could be.
Joe, are those in the older part of the building or the newer part? Is it different? I mean,
One of them's from the oldest bathroom in the building, and the other end is the 82 wing.
What's that? I mean, shouldn't we all know what those are?
no, oh no, I'm just asking what
Why not,
part of the
can we
building.
clarify for
Yeah.
anybody who might watch the show?
Room 105,
So what's that?
bathroom 105, bathroom 106.
Which one is that? What's 105, 106?
That would be Emily Stevens' room and Valley Young's room, down on the far end on the left. And then it would be the kindergarten girls' bathroom, which is ironic that the boys' bathroom didn't test high because it's of the same era.
Did they do a second test?
We have not done a second test because we're financially right now not ready to do that. The test was, we got all of our stuff through the town, we did the testing ourselves, and that was to the tune of $700. So we're trying to be a little bit frugal on our money right now.
Since we're talking about money, I was wondering if there is grant money out there for lead.
There is,
There is.
yes,
Okay.
and that's more information to come.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Good. At the facilities committee, we talked about our shrubbery that we did when we did the parking lot. I have not been able to get a price yet, it's just been really busy at the end of the year. And so we would like to be able to
So
take
explain
those
to them
out.
where the shrubbery is.
And it's along the neighbor's yard and where we were gonna have the other neighbor, right at the end of the 2 driveways come out. Those aprovites that we had out there. They get buried with snow every year from the loader, and they just have not survived. They're kind of an eyesore.
He
Good, Rob.
was first.
Good.
It's okay to have that done without cost, right? If somebody volunteered to come in, pull them out and then dispose them, discard them. Is there any policy against that kind of an activity?
I've not looked specific for a policy that would prevent a volunteer from coming in and do that work, but I can certainly take a look.
I find it amazing that we would spend money removing shrubs when there's a lead problem. We need to do a second test for $700. One's certainly more pressing than the other.
I don't
Point out
think
the
you mean
shrubs to
right
me. I think I know the
I
one
don't
you're
think we
talking
should talk about money on pulling shrubs until we have the other stuff handled.
We won't have to spend any money pulling shrubs and discarding them.
You gonna pull
I ain't saying anything.
them? Tell me what day, I'll bring some gloves.
So I'm just giving you guys the big picture. You guys can fight amongst yourselves about that.
We
So,
don't fight.
yeah. So next is the learning centers. Tough time finding a contractor. I have 2 that have finally come up and they're gonna give me some pricing on that. I know we'd love to get 3 bids. I have Kelly Lasad, contractor, that said that if we cannot find anybody, that he would be willing to come in and take care of what we needed done. But we have 2 right now that are willing to give us pricing on that. Time is gonna be kind of the essence a little bit because of our time frame to get this done. So I didn't know if it would be okay with the board if I gave you guys if we could kind of do it through the superintendent and the principal and the vice principal, give a recommendation of what we think, send that out to the board, and if the board is in favor of that, if
What
that
do
would
we have
work,
now?
something like that,
The Cubbies
Above the,
or can we just
Right,
go ahead?
activity room.
It's a framing for the
out
Cubbies.
there.
What's our budget on it, Joe? The budget on the project?
40, right?
26.
26 for the project.
And 14.
26 for the learning centers,
Oh, 14 for the room, right.
yeah, for renovation.
So you're looking for an approval that if it falls under budget from one of the contracts, that we could elect to use one of those contractors, since time is of the essence and you haven't been able to find a
Correct.
contractor who would give you a quote. We can't do it by email, so what you'd be looking for is a vote right now.
Yes, if we could. Just the email would be to notify that.
That's what I understand.
We're trying to suspend a policy that would allow the administration to make the decision on who to hire.
But based on going below the, I thought it was
Below that.
5,000. What is it?
The whole project is 26.
No, I thought that we
Oh,
had to
right,
vote on.
yes.
I thought
That's
that
what we're
was-
talking about, is suspending a policy so that, again, Joe's been working to get a contractor, and unfortunately for the contractors in the area, they're very busy, and this is a small project for them. So,
I'll make a motion to suspend said policy for this particular project in order to make sure that the project's done in a timely fashion.
And this is only on the framing end of it. I do have here, I did get 3 bids on the electrical that, if possible, if we can make a decision on that tonight from the board, then that way there I can at least get the electrician.
All part of the same project.
All part of the same project.
I have a question.
Okay?
The framing, is it within the parameters of the budget for the room that you have
I don't know,
requested?
I haven't got it back yet.
It should.
So shouldn't we have the whole
I
thing
think
back to
so.
make sure it falls under before we start any of it?
You gotta run out of time.
That seems like something we should have worried about before now.
I think it was worried about before
I
now.
think that we-
Been worried
was
about it
worried about
since.
Good, Joe.
I think we're probably gonna be able to move the motion without a
And we
second.
don't have a
Oh,
second.
second, I second it. I'm sorry.
So can you repeat what you?
Yeah, my motion was to suspend the policy that regarding competitive bidding, and I'm not sure of the lettering of that policy. But to suspend that said policy for the purposes of moving this particular project along as quickly as we can, so that, period.
And Tracy, you second it?
I seconded it, yes.
And now we should discuss.
Go ahead.
My problem is that we don't know how much the electrical is yet. We know we're gonna have to have sprinklers, we have that, but, I'm concerned that we don't go over the 26,000, that it stays within that.
So right now with our estimated costs on that, and if you remember, it was a rough estimate that I had given the superintendent at the time, we are within our money. We're actually under.
Is that including the sprinklers?
That's the sprinklers and the electrical.
And these bids are falling into that rough estimate that you gave us?
They are. So if you'd like, I can read these, or it's just an Excel spreadsheet. So we had Dame Electric, that LLC that came in at $6,520. J&S Tech Electric out of Milton at $5,787. And then we had Northwind Electric Incorporated at $3,850. And if you'd like, you have copies of these if you'd like them.
And those are exactly like bids?
Excuse me?
They all bid exactly
It's
the
apples
same?
to apples.
So I would ask to move the motion on the table and then take up this.
Is there any other comments on the motion? We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye, and nay, me?
You're a nay?
I am a
we.
nay.
Nay, okay.
I'm not a fan of rushing through something or changing policy because we didn't get it done on time.
Well, not changing the policy, was suspending the
Suspending it.
policy.
Yeah, changing it for this.
It's,
It's just for the
Try to make
betterment of the
them-
kids.
Yes, but that's why we make policies, is so that we follow them.
it is a competitive bidding, and basically you're looking for 3 people to bid on anything over $5,000.
That's for this part, but not for the framing part.
Mine's more for the frame, my motion was to
For the
more get the
framing.
framing done.
Right, right, right. We're about to do the electric.
The electric, we have 3 competitive bids.
Right. Oops, you handed that to me?
Just to be clear, I'm
should
just
share.
gonna state, I believe, Joe, you put bids out for the framing right after the vote.
Yes, we did.
You just didn't get any bids.
We didn't, it was on the
In
website.
the last facilities
back and
meeting,
wait.
Joe said he
I'm a fan of
was
that.
struggling. At that point, you had none.
Right. And then and to be clear also, it's a cyclical, it's a, until those workspaces are done, you can't think about any other thing, because if those workspaces don't get done, then we can't do partner program.
You can't do electrical. Can't do nothing without the framing in place.
Let's see, what should be the motion for this so we can do a discussion?
I'll make a motion to entertain the 3 bids that we've been presented by the facilities manager.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Well, we're just taking up the item. We're taking, so now, as we're discussing
Over
the,
there.
Excuse me, sorry.
Joe, all 3 of these folks bonded or insured?
Yes.
Everybody is reliable, professional, good reputation?
Yes.
I recognize all 3 names, that they're regular people out in the business. Right? They're not shadowy companies, they're all,
I know one.
I know 3.
Okay, okay, then that helps, that we know them.
I'm looking at the prices and
Sandy?
My question is, we're betting on this, can our electrical system handle adding to it?
It can. Where we're gonna add this into is over in the gymnasium where we have a panel over there, where we have probably another 8 or 9 slots that we can put breakers into.
Do you have something, Mark?
well, I can yield.
So you said apples to apples, you looked at them all. Any idea why one is almost twice the another? I mean, is there any difference that you're seeing?
There is not.
No.
Any asterisks where, this price may be subject to change based on, materials cost and stuff like that?
Not that I believe. I mean, everything was the same, we were looking at doing,
So the RFP had everything included that they're bidding on?
yeah, everything was right on the website.
Make a motion to award the bid to J&S Tech Electric for $5,787.
To discuss that. So I'll second it for discussion.
Go ahead.
Why would you go to the more expensive one?
It's not the most expensive one.
More expensive. Most would be the biggest one.
It's $900 more.
Well, no.
No, it's almost 2.
It's
Oh,
almost.
I'm
It's
sorry.
19,
Yes,
it's almost
$1,900.
Yes, you're right. 1,900, I missed.
Why?
Mm-hmm. Northwind's always around here. Haven't they done work here before too?
I do believe they have. I don't know if, and I'm not an electrician.
Mhm.
I don't know if that number's enough.
Well, he's an incorporated business and he made the bid. We would be able to hold him to it, wouldn't we?
That's
That's $1,900. How many laptops does that give the second graders?
it's good to have the discussion because the motion could be voted down.
I'm just wondering. What
Yeah,
the
Do we second?
There was a second
seconded for discussion.
discussion.
I actually, having this experience this year, would, as long as it's a reputable company, would much prefer to go with Northwind at $3,800 versus J&S at $5,700.
So now you want to vote on
Yep,
the
so we have a
motion.
motion and a second to accept J&S Electric. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion fails. Perfect.
Can I make a motion?
Mhm.
Okay, I make a motion to accept Northwind Electric at $3,850.
I second it.
Any discussion on that?
Just the only question would be, is it only because of the numerical value, the money value?
No, it's also because I have been assured that they are a reputable company. They filled out their RFP correctly. They are to be held responsible, and so I don't see why I would spend another $2,000 or $1,900 if it's apples to apples.
I agree.
Have a motion and a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No, I'm not opposed. I'll vote in the affirmative.
Oh. Okay, so
Opposed?
So 4 to 1.
Did you get that?
Could you repeat that vote, please?
4 to 1.
4 yeas, 1 nay. Okay.
For
Sandy
North-
the nay?
Northwind.
For Northwind.
If you're confident it can be done for that price, so am I.
Joe, what else you got?
Security. We have cameras and everything, the security grant that's out there, and waiting on one more quote to come back. But this here is an area that really should be discussed by the companies themselves. So asking the board if we could hold a special meeting and invite the companies to come and have them speak on behalf. That way you're getting it right from the horse's mouth. It's not coming third hand, and all their facts are gonna be spot on, point on, and then that way there, you guys can have that to come have questions ready for them. So ideally, what I would like to be able to do is, you know, have a small little portfolio set up for you guys for this interview process on these companies that are gonna be coming in.
That's an excellent idea.
And how many do you have?
4. That I believe is gonna come, yes, 4 that are reporting on.
And when do you need this special meeting?
Sooner than later.
We're talking like
Other-
July, something?
July, the July 7th, 8th, 9th, in that area, just after the 4th, if we could do something like that, that way there, it would still give us time to get things installed before the August 27th date of teachers coming back.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was thinking of allotting these gentlemen and ladies, you know, around 45 minutes to present their presentation, because it's pretty in-depth.
What days you think, John?
I believe Monday is July
6th is Saturday, 7th is Sunday.
July 8th, then would be a Monday, 8th, 9th, or 10th, something like that.
So our regular meeting is the 2nd, right?
No, the regular meeting's the first and third. First and third Tuesday.
Agenda.
First and third.
Our
Third
regular
and
meeting's the
second.
2nd, right?
Oh, the second day.
Second of July.
No, it's July 2nd. Our
That's-
first, the
I
first
just made
Tuesday.
that up.
I changed it.
Oh, we're having a July 9th. Sandy said we changed it.
It's the second. no,
We
first
changed
and
it,
third.
Jerry?
When did we change it?
Yeah, I got it in there too.
Sure,
Change
sure,
it to the
Al.
9th?
Yep.
Just a point, it's been listed on the calendar for a while as July 9th, not July 2nd. I think probably due to the holiday week, or at some point it was
I get you,
scheduled for
okay.
that day. So just a point of,
Is it still the 16th as well?
pardon me?
Is it still the
That's
16th?
to be determined, I think.
It's not on the calendar.
Okay.
It was,
That's
the
good
board
answer.
had usually met one meeting a month, so that second meeting for July has not been officially noticed.
Oh, good, I have it. Okay, so it's July 9th.
July 9th. Where would you like to have that, Joe?
I mean, you guys are having,
The meeting
so you guys are gonna have a regular school board meeting on July 9th
Yes.
at 6.
at 6.
Can we have a shortened agenda?
Yeah.
Or could we meet us the night before or after? Actually, I can't do it on the Monday before that because of conservation.
What if, maybe we can meet earlier,
Would a 4 o'clock meeting?
4:30.
It wouldn't
But
give
we're
you.
we're talking, we're talking
yeah,
3 hours, right?
3 to 4 hours. If anybody runs over, I can't imagine them running over.
Do you think they'd be open to the 10th, the day after our school board meeting? Or, I mean, maybe, well, I'd like to be there, but I couldn't be there on the second Monday of the month. I do know that.
Can we do the 16th, the week afterwards?
I'm just running late in time, then, you know, running the month and a week out to get,
How about the
Shortened
10th?
agenda on
Yeah, why
on
don't we do
Tuesday.
it? Can,
On the 9th?
Yeah, let's do it just,
But it's
At
still
6
4
o'clock.
hours of 3 to 4 hours.
just do
talk quick.
manifests and,
could it be something that happened on the 2nd, where that was gonna be our regular?
Anybody going away?
Everybody's doing holiday stuff.
Everybody's all.
I'm not,
out
I'm
and
free.
about.
I'm free.
How
I'm
about
wicked
if,
free. I'm
I
even,
have
I'm
a
even
foot
free at 4
appointment.
o'clock.
what's that?
Yeah,
Can
I'm
we-
here.
Okay. Can we agree to have a regular school board meeting on the second meeting date of the month and have this particular special meeting on the 9th? So that would be the 9th.
Is that enough notice? to change the school board meeting?
No, you just, you just,
Just 24 hours.
Oh, that's all you need?
yeah.
So you're saying have this meeting on the 9th and have our regular school board meeting the 16th?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm hoping and praying and really asking for.
I
So
can
that
do
would be our first
could
one
do
of
that.
the month.
So it's gonna be
16th would be
the,
the
9th
first.
and the 16th.
but it's gonna be the security meeting?
The
On the
9th is
9th.
the security and the 16th.
At 6
So
still.
we'd end up only having one meeting then in July.
Do the manifest or anything like that need to be signed prior to that 16th day of
Probably,
July?
But the board could come to the school board, so
Well,
the
you gotta-
SAU
you-
office and sign it, doesn't have to be at the school board.
We can put that on the agenda to sign, to have the consent agenda. It can be on
We could
that
do that on
agenda.
that
and-
agenda.
and then
Right,
move
Right,
right
in a special
into-
meeting.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be a special, we could just have a regular
Right.
board.
Right,
Will that
right,
work
but
for
just a
everybody?
short- Just a short
Right,
one,
thanks.
just a short
Okay.
agenda that says manifest.
So July 9th, 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
Is that a compromise?
Works for me. So
Perfect.
July 9th,
And we'll-
special meeting, 6 PM.
And
Not
nothing on the
special,
2nd,
just-
right? Or are we having?
No,
Short
we're gonna have-
agenda.
No meeting on July 2nd.
So on July 9th, starting at 6, and it could possibly go 4 hours, you're looking at 10 o'clock before you get out of here.
How about,
That's way too late.
how about
You,
we, could- because
Not
it's,
bad.
We're just gonna keep them at 45 minutes.
how about if we, because it is a special meeting, how about if we hold that at 5 o'clock?
I can't be there.
Oh,
But you can come right after that,
6:15?
6:15?
6 to 6:15?
that's because you're starting on your job.
Brand new job. Yeah, I'm not leaving early then. You gotta give me at least a week.
Would you be hurt if we started it at 5 o'clock?
And
you-
took notes? Oh,
So I'm gonna read your notes and then vote that same night? I wouldn't be hurt if I had the notes to read overnight, if you want to vote later.
Yeah, but if we, I mean, we could gather the information through the presentation and then vote at that next meeting.
Why don't we just have it at 6, like all our meetings?
Okay.
Try to go through it as fast
That's
as we
fine.
Bob
can.
leaves very early in the morning. He has a reverse.
I really can't go past 8 o'clock in most meetings now.
So he
We better
is,
get going then, huh?
he has the reverse problem, getting to work early. How about, can we do 2 and 2? Maybe 2 on the 9th, 2 on the
That's a pain in
16th?
the ass.
Well, you look at the same issue. You were talking about that it puts him back, Joe back
16th,
on.
You're not gonna get the project done by the
Yeah.
time school's back.
Can we cut them down to a half an hour?
So what,
We'll do a half hour.
Yep.
can we just see their, if you're gonna give us a pamphlet ahead of time, could we see their proposals ahead of time and read them and just have a
Good idea.
question and answer session?
Do they have them?
And then, right?
You
and
have
then-
them in hand? Not with you right now, but you have them already presented to you?
Yeah, I mean,
Tell them to
they're
give
not
it-
gonna mean much to you guys.
Well, take a look at what you have.
Can you translate it to normal people, not electrician, or, not electricians?
I
or
think
whatever,
if,
not
I think if
security?
we were sent a PDF with the
Mhm.
information and not talk about anything contemporary,
Right.
on an email, just
Mhm.
receive the information through
It's a
email,
hard
then
word,
we could be
contemporaneous.
prepared. It is.
It is.
Better
It's a tongue
practice,
tie.
Yeah.
So then, yeah, if we could read it all ahead of time, I mean, there's always Google, we can look it up.
Right.
And then we just ask them question and answers. We could start at 6,
6
be
to
out by
8.
8, and we just get it done.
Okay. Half hour piece.
Well, we
Yep.
don't even give them that, we're just gonna ask questions.
Well, it would be
I don't want-
individually,
I want a half an hour, but tell them they have a half an hour,
half hour.
but, you
For
know.
questions.
July 9th, 6 o'clock, half hour, information ahead of time.
Yep.
Post it as a special meeting.
You want that as a special meeting, everybody? Better-
Yeah.
Sure.
You're gonna have the consent agenda to vote on, and
Oh,
You're
so
gonna
you're
have to
saying
be
it's a
a
regular
non-public.
meeting?
I think you do a regular, I'm saying you can do a regular meeting, and.
Oh, okay.
Put the consent agenda
Yeah.
in there,
I
and
would
you're,
do
the
a
way you're
regular-
doing is just, all you're doing is a
Regular meeting.
presentation.
Just like we did with the school board.
But it's security, so is it non-public?
It is not, it should be
So
non-public.
is there some way we can note to the public what's gonna happen, so people don't waste their time coming out to see us vote on the consent agenda?
Well, we can put it in the agenda, it's gonna go into the agenda, and it's gonna say consent agenda, non-public, and then,
Anybody watching this will be totally confused.
Right.
well, it's just gonna go in there, and.
I get it
so
though. I know, I get the whole
The
thought
final word on
process.
this, we have a July 9th school board meeting starting at 6 PM. We will have a consent agenda. We will have the people come in to talk to us about security upgrades, so we'll be going into non-public. There'll be very little that the public will see in this meeting, aside from the consent agenda, and then we expect a half an hour for each of the vendors, and the meeting will wrap up around 8 o'clock.
I second that motion.
I didn't make a motion.
All right, and then we have a regular meeting on the 16th.
Correct.
Perfect, right? That makes it good for everybody.
All right, Joe, you
Thank
get
you
all
very
that?
much for that, yep.
Thank you.
Excellent.
So lastly, on the security end of things, walkie-talkies. So in your package there was 3 quotes that came in. This is on security also. It's part of the security grant.
Give us a page number.
60?
60, there you go.
Thanks, Joe.
You're welcome. So on these here, again, it was apples to apples for the radios. We run into a whole nother issue with repeaters. Kenny Communication has his repeaters already in place. If we were gonna go with Maine Radio has a repeater over in Acton, but our radios aren't gonna bounce off of that. He would have to come in here and set up a repeater for us to start doing what our radios already do off Kenny Communication stuff. We have a Motorola, it's a Vertex EVX 240, I believe it is right now, that has been bought out by Motorola. So our radios are no longer being made. They're gonna be obsolete here sooner than later. And with that there, Kenny Communications is a dealer of that. We bought all of our radios through him. He's willing to come in and sit down this summer and reprogram everything so all of our radios work and talk to one another. So,
Did we have an issue with someone saying they were going to do something and not following through recently regarding this? Wasn't there some sort of thing happening with the repeaters?
I know there was a voter that was gonna be put up, that we had at one meeting up on the barn.
So he was gonna put the voter up, and then he said he wasn't, and then he actually did put the voter, well, he didn't put it up, he turned it on, about a month ago, to see if it would work better.
But wasn't there a plan to do it like a long time ago?
Yes.
Months and months ago,
Yes.
and he just didn't follow through?
He took a long time to follow through.
Ralph?
So, vendor number 1 and vendor number 3 would need to set up some sort of repeater?
Is that their
is my
cost?
understanding.
Is that at their cost or ours?
Ours. And they're not cheap.
I'll make a
So
motion.
that's not the quote. Joe?
This is just providing a quote for the radios, from what I understand.
An individual, yeah. So this is gonna be for 10 radios.
And we need the repeaters? I don't know anything about radios, to be honest.
Yes.
It's like being in a dead spot for your phone.
So,
I'll make a motion to accept the bid from vendor number 2, Kenny Communication, in the amount of $3,650.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. Any other further discussion?
Considering the idea that that provider already has the repeaters, I think there would be a cost savings in the long run.
So,
Is there any concern that he's going to not follow through again?
I will make sure that doesn't happen.
I have faith.
I believe you.
Tracy?
Are they digital?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Tell me analog.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye. You couldn't have given a better
Opposed?
answer than that.
All
And Sandy,
five.
what did you?
5-0.
Trying to be expedient with time.
Yep.
You see on page
Thank you, Joe.
61,
Yep, thank you.
the calendar. I had to make a revision on the calendar and bring it to you for approval. We did the calendar before the March vote.
Thank you, Joe.
With the teacher's contract failing. We did not, we had teacher workshop on August 30th because we fell back to the old contract that we can't have school on that day. The date we cannot have school on the Friday before Labor Day. So that has to be a no school day.
Where's Governor Sununu and his no school in August thing? Didn't he say he was gonna do that?
Right, I called him recently.
We have to call him again.
So I'm just looking for approval that, we will end up working a teacher workshop day. We have up to 7 days, in the contract for teacher workshop. we'll have to work that in probably at the end of the year.
But you're not saying you have to work this day.
No.
This is a no school for everybody day.
This is a no school for everybody. It's no school.
You need a vote, or you just?
That's
I
the
need a
change.
vote, because you voted on the calendar before. I need a vote to accept this amended version.
I'll make a motion to accept the amended version that the superintendent's presenting the school board tonight.
Second.
Any more discussion? Go ahead.
I have a question. Why are the kids only coming back one day on the 28th
Yeah,
instead of the
it's
2 days?
it's 28th and the 29th.
It's two.
Are they coming back both those days?
Yes.
Okay.
So the reason you put in those days is because you have to we have to account for 180 days, even though you may end up shortening at the other end. As well as by RSA, you're required to have 10 snow days put in at the end of the year, and trying to get 180 days based on the calendar, based on the other obligations, based on holidays.
Without hitting July.
Without hitting July. Yeah, that's why you see these silly 1 or 2 days of school to start the year. It's basically due to the RSA.
Will we ever plan on hours instead?
Possibly, we could certainly look at that for this coming school year.
But I wish we could start in
Next year,
September
but-
and end at the beginning of June. Don't you?
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Yeah,
Snow
I
days.
did that.
We gave
Jen, you voted in favor
I
of
did.
that. Excellent.
And you're up,
New business.
Where am I at?
grant assurances.
Okay. Not following my agenda. So, last year, the Commissioner of Education put forth a new regulation that general assurances for grants were to be signed off by the superintendent of school and the chairman of the school board. It used to be that they were just signed by the superintendent. If you want to pass it down,
See
I
how
know it's
he
a lot of
answers your
reading.
questions about this, yeah. This is where you ran into a roadblock, remember?
These general assurances, these general assurances are, have to be done prior to us being able to begin the process of applying for FY 1920 grants.
For now?
And these general assurances offer what they call substantially approvable. So once these are sent off and they are in the right hands, we can then submit our grants. So problem number one was the general assurances were sent to Dr. Tyree. So we didn't really get them until about 2 weeks ago when I said to Jerry, where are the general assurances? And he said, I haven't gotten them. And I spoke to the person at the DOE, and the DOE person said, we sent them to Dr. Tyree.
At her house?
Her email is closed.
Oh, email.
I kept our email open for I don't know, 2.5 months, 3 months, and then I just
So,
recently deactivated it.
Jerry and I know this is a lot of reading, and I know this board well to know enough that you're not going to just approve these general assurances without understanding them. That being said, Jerry and I went through and looked at all of the assurances, and Jerry initialed the ones we knew we were in compliance with. The ones we're not in compliant with are, many districts are not in compliant with the grant financial policies because the federal government audited the New Hampshire Department of Ed and found them in non-compliance. So then the New Hampshire Department of Ed audited districts, us being one, and found us in non-compliance. They recommended to the New Hampshire School Board Association that they develop a policy that, go ahead.
This is DAF that we're talking
Yep,
about.
yep, no, I was
This is-
waiting to.
Yeah, I'm just pointing out there, but this is DAF
Right,
that, you know,
that was it. So they
all
recommended.
encompassing policy.
When you're done, I was gonna raise my hand.
Right, so they recommended to the New Hampshire School Board Association that many districts were in this situation, and they should try to develop a template for school districts to follow, which they did, and we have just brought DAF to the policy committee for its review and approval to bring to the school board. So I talked to the person at the State Department, and he said that these assurances can be initialed with a document attached stating where DAF stands in the policy process. In order for us to apply for grants for next year, these assurances are supposed to be sent to the parties to be by June 30th.
So get reading. Is that what you're telling us?
I'm telling you, get reading. I don't know if it would be helpful to have Jerry
It's not that much.
share with you the assurances that we know we can sign off on. This is all blank.
Yeah, you did give me the one we signed off on.
I was gonna say, there's not a
So,
whole lot of checks here.
We
You
did.
have, because you have the one
Oh, okay.
that you
So
signed off on.
basically,
so-
the ones we didn't sign off on are the ones that are relative to DAF because it says you have to have a policy. Because we don't have a policy, the DAF policy, you know, I wasn't gonna sign that, but again, then Ann contacted Mr. Carney at the DOE who indicated that we could just say that we could attach that document that says the policy's in process. And that's acceptable because again, we are in good company, it sounds like, of other school districts that are going through the same thing.
So you would suggest you sign off on all of them?
I would.
Busy?
The DAF policy, actually, I have read, it has hit the policy committee, and it is extensive, just like this is. It's an excellent document created by New Hampshire School Board Association. Again, bids between up to 10,000 have a certain way to be handled. From 10 to 250, it has another way to be handled, and it's very specific how it goes out. It's also very lengthy, so what we decided is we're gonna, and it's called DAF 1 through DAF, I think 8 or 10. 1 and 2 are huge, so that it can actually be managed. We were thinking of breaking it up into 3 parts, and next week you will have, this was Jen's idea, DAF 1 and 2.
You mean next board meeting?
I'm sorry, next board meeting. You
Not
will
next
have
board meeting.
DAF 1
Not
and...
next.
On July 9th.
16th.
16th, thank
Right.
you, sorry. Thank you. Good
So,
we're a good team here.
Could we do, could we add a DAF? I mean, unless it's not that time critical, but,
Could we get them printed and so that people could read them at their leisure
right, could we distribute those? It's a link.
imminently?
Yeah, would that be possible?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You could, if there's not a whole lot of discussion, you could have a brief discussion on this on the 9th.
If
And
we're just ready.
If you're ready. And again, DAF is, we can go beyond DAF and put more restrictions in there, but DAF is required by RSA. So we can't take away from that. And the other parts, you know, and I think this would be a particular concern to a couple of people, that while there are the limits of bidding are at $10,000 or a minimum of $10,000, or excuse me, the maximum is $10,000 you have to go for. It doesn't supersede our other policies unless you make that in our other policies. This is only relative to our grant funding.
Right.
So that policy may be required by RSA, but it's also required by the application for this grant. And the
For all of them.
assurances.
For all grants.
All
involved.
grants. So the general assurances are the first phase, and then each grant has assurances of their own. Those assurances just get signed off by the school superintendent. The general assurances need a signature from the school board chair and the superintendent. It's not clear to me, but I feel strongly that the entire board needs to see this before you sign off on it. It's not clear to me. I haven't seen anything that says that the board needs to vote for you to sign off on it.
And an interruption, should I make a motion that we go past 8 o'clock?
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed.
I oppose too.
Just done.
Principal,
And I,
PLE.
3 to 2, so it's,
Motion to go past 8 o'clock, 3 to 2.
and I have to say that at the level of the DOE, there's so much changing that we could probably tell the DOE in a number of different ways that Dr. Tyree is no longer the superintendent, but they still send stuff to Dr. Tyree. Even though Mr. Gregoire is now listed as the superintendent.
You know what, I got my first tax bill ever this year for this town, and I've lived here 19 years.
Yeah, so,
Really?
Yes, it's gone to Gonick, 19
Okay.
years.
Granted, they're making a mistake, but I do not want to miss out in any way, shape, or form the ability to apply for federal
Right.
grants or state grants that are the pass-through entity for a federal grant. So,
It's not that thick. I mean, it'll take us a bit, right?
I
This is
already
the whole
read the
thing,
DAF,
right?
so I can do this.
It goes through 10, and so it's not that bad.
And the DAF was very thorough and very well spelled out. It's just lengthy. So, when would you like, so yes, how do we go forward?
If you read this, we need to have this in by June 30th, or do we have?
as long as it's dated June 30th, I think we would be good.
Okay, so then we can wait until 16th, July 9th.
19th.
9th.
Oh.
Ninth.
No, you guys,
June 30th.
30th, 12 days.
Right.
June 30th.
Right.
June 30th.
Without a meeting.
I mean, I'll read it. I'll read it.
That's why I'm bringing this to you as a concern, because it should have come to you sooner, had it come to us sooner. I didn't get a clear answer from Mr. Carney at the DOE as to what would happen if we sent him in after June 30th. But what I know is I can't get started on, let's say, Title I, which day one of school, Title I should be in place. The other IDEA should be in place day one of school.
Not being sure of how email laws work.
Right.
What if we all read this and we independently send to the superintendent an email? No,
do it.
no,
Can't
you
do
can't
it.
say that, that
Cannot do
I
that.
approve it?
No.
No?
That's a.
Even if everybody else doesn't
So
see
what's
it?
our
Correct.
vehicle? Can we
Because you're
just
making
stop
a
in?
vote. You are taking
And sign
the vote,
something?
yeah.
Okay, yeah,
I don't know.
I'm
No,
trying.
actually, the proper procedure would be to have board discussion, somebody make a motion in a second, and then more discussion, and then a vote on that motion. So, I mean,
How about,
I have an idea.
So, based on what I heard, if the board makes a motion to, the superintendent indicated that everything here is, he approves, except for the policy that's still pending. So, if, I don't know if it would be acceptable if the board motions to move forward with this pending the policy that's pending, the new one, if that would be acceptable to the DOE, and then once the policy is approved, then you will send the addendum.
Right, what's acceptable to the DOE is that I put an addendum to this stating that the policy is in process of being reviewed by the board.
Do we have to vote on that, or you can just do that?
That I can
That
just
we
do,
can
but
do,
it's
it's just a matter of you
of-
haven't had a chance to read this.
Right.
You have not had a chance to read it.
okay, we had this last year. We actually did have to vote on the assurances, and I made Chris read them, and anyway, it was an interesting event. But basically, if we don't approve this, we cannot apply for grant aid, federal
We could
grants.
be
Or if we do
restricted.
not give them the assurances that we have these practices in place, we are not entitled to apply for federal grants, which would be a disaster.
Right.
So you're telling us that we do actually have all of these practices in place,
We
except
do.
for the DAF.
Everything, I'm confident, looking at our assurances and reading through them with Ann and I, going through them extensively, that we're covered, except for DAF.
Yeah, actually, since I actually did read them and participated last year, and we'll be doing the DAF, I'm actually fine with it.
Ralph?
so was it this topic that we were discussing that did find some shortcomings in the, there was, in an audit, there was an area that was found a little bit short?
most recent audit,
Yeah.
the financial audit,
Yeah,
those are the policies that are in DAF now.
okay.
That's how DAF came to be
in
constructed
place.
because of those deficits.
I understand that, but okay.
Yeah, that's why it was developed.
Yeah,
Several schools were actually
sure.
not compliant.
Yeah.
So is there a way getting around reading them and voting on them, or voting on them without reading them, that we can keep our ability to apply for grants open until we read them and approve them? Just sending out that thing saying it's pending, right?
Yeah,
That will leave everything
30th.
open. Hmm?
You have until June 30th.
Well,
But if she sends out the paperwork saying that they're
No,
pending.
if it's not signed by the school board, we will be considered
non-responsive.
non-responsive.
Good, Tracy.
We cannot change the assurances. These are set by the government.
Right.
We are not here to approve or not approve the actual assurances. All we are doing is confirming that they're in place, which, and Jerry had just confirmed that they are in place. That's what we were asking
You are
last year.
being much
but
more
we-
lenient this year than you were last year.
No, they've already given me, last year I asked for the assurances, that the assurances were in place. That's all I asked. And it didn't go well because I don't know why. They came to the table saying, we have gone through this thoroughly. The assurances that they asked for are in place, except for DAF, which you and I are actually working on. We can't change the assurances from the government.
No, but I don't think that they've actually said, are you saying everything in here but DAF?
Yes,
To
I am
guarantee
saying,
that they-
I have initialed
They're assuring
every,
me that the assurances are assurable.
Which is all I asked,
assure you.
which is all I asked of the superintendent last year. Jerry came to the table with the assurance,
There is a process.
which is last year didn't happen.
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
That's, again,
Gotcha.
having gone through everyone, again, I have physically initialed everyone that I felt I could initial at that time.
And how many were left uninitialed?
Gosh, I couldn't begin to tell you.
And they all were DAF.
Because again, DAF was,
But you will initial the rest of them.
I will initial and so will you.
Good luck with it.
I hope, excuse me. I
But
don't
we,
mean to-
yeah, we're not voting on these assurances. These are written by the federal government.
You're just, you're just saying the assurances,
We're in compliance.
we are gonna comply with them.
Yep.
So we don't
And
need
we
to
are.
get together for that.
No, I can vote that we will comply.
Because if we are not in compliance right now,
You
we
need a
will be
vote.
immediately then.
Exactly.
I
Okay.
do need a vote.
You want to make a motion, Tracy?
Sure, I make a motion to accept the general assurances requirements for this Jerry Gregoire.
Yeah, for 2020, right?
Yes.
I
FY
second that.
2020.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Strongly opposed.
Okay.
Start initialing, I'll take that from you and I'll just reinitial.
For the record, strongly opposed.
Write it in bold.
For the record.
Yes.
Policies.
Policies. Let's see if I get my agenda here in front of me. So you have 6 policies in front of us here this evening. 3, the first 3 are for a second reading for JICFA hazing. Are there any questions on JICFA hazing? We went through this at the last board meeting.
It's hard here.
No?
Okay,
No questions? Motion to accept policy GICFA.
So
hazing.
moved.
For a second?
Second.
All in favor?
A little bit of conversation.
Conversation.
Is any of the duties being transformed from the school board to the superintendent in the renewed policy or revised policy? Or is it even revised, I should say?
Yeah, it's revised basically around to comply with legal references.
Okay.
So again, you see at the second to last paragraph, it talks about the superintendent taking reasonable measures within the scope of the district authority to prevent student hazing. It's not delegating any further authority to me. It just says what my responsibilities are.
And certainly, we're still responsible for any end result of the vote, ultimately.
Ultimately, but again, it'll come back to me, I'm sure.
You betcha.
I'm not being funny, but I mean, if
I
I've
know.
neglected my duties, or you have to step in,
Yeah.
it's gonna come back to me.
Yeah.
So motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, policy KB, Title I, Family and Community Engagement. Again, revised based on changes from RSA and ed rules, excuse me.
You wanna make a motion?
I make a motion to accept the policy KB.
I second it.
All in favor for discussion? Discussion, all? No, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, carried.
And the second reading is IHAK, Character and Citizenship Education. And if you recall from our last meeting, this became much more comprehensive. There were only a handful of items that were noted in the previous IHAK that was revised, and so it becomes much more comprehensive.
You wanna make a motion?
I make a motion to accept the policy IHAK.
Second, for discussion?
Well, we're not a democratic government, we're actually a republic. Number 13. Not that that really matters to anybody, but this nation is a republic, not a democracy. We act as a democracy, but truly a republic. But we might not be able to keep it.
Is that a nay?
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'll vote in the affirmative.
Okay.
Okay, and the next three are first reading, JICD, Student Discipline and Due Process. This is the same policy that you have, we've had all along. The only thing I've taken out of there, and I've only because I've never done it, speaking with Ms. Kebler, she's never done any school district she worked in, but having the principal consult with the superintendent prior to a suspension. And I've none of my superintendents when I've done a suspension, I consulted with them. I'm informed. We send letters to the SAU informing them of the suspension, that gets filed, but it's not a consultation prior to. So that's what I've crossed off on there. And the other two, so.
These are first readings, so we don't.
These are just first reading, right? So the other two, GBEC and ABD, are mirror image policies. You're gonna find in New Hampshire School Board Association policies that are duplicates and triplicates of each other. This is one of them. They all address drug-free workplace and drug-free schools, and they reflect changes by federal and state law. And Ralph, there are some responsibilities for the superintendent that will ensure that biennial review of the implementation of the policy. So we'll be reviewing it here in 2019 to ensure that we are in compliance with the drug-free workplace and drug-free schools. And basically that means that each employee gets a copy of the policy. We post a notice of the district policy in an area where staff congregate and establish a drug-free awareness program to educate employees about the dangers of drug abuse and drug use in the workplace, and what the consequences of that policy may be. So that's basically what I'm responsible for. But that's just the first reading.
So I got one question about that. Is it, that does not include prescriptive drugs or medication that people are on, does it?
I'm saying sure. What do you have to say?
This isn't for folks that are on medication, for prescribed medication.
No, this is.
Controlled substance or drugs, or drug.
But, I mean, there are many medications that should be controlled.
Well, if you read it, again, if you go to page 74, on bullet 1, unlawfully manufacturing, dispensing, distributing, possessing, or using, or being under the influence. I think the key word in there is the unlawfully. So if you lawfully are in possession a Category 1 drug for your medical use, you're okay. Again, but you can't, I think, it says including employees possessing a medical marijuana card. So again, I think the key word here is unlawfully.
Willingly and knowingly.
Does it say that in there?
No, not yet.
Okay.
All right. Is it just-
So that, and those are mirror image policies, so when we have to have them both.
No, I know, I had something to add to it.
Okay.
There's an optional piece in here about a syringe
Oh, gosh,
that
yeah.
we recommended not to add into it.
So-
So when you read it,
Well, I just gotta quickly say, you know, part of the sample policy includes language that's optional, that's not required under law, to have a syringe exchange program within the school. That's not something I would advocate for.
God, thank you.
Okay, that wraps up the policies.
Public comment.
Other
Did you
business?
read the letter?
Other
You read
business.
that?
Oh, other business?
That's nice.
Usually have something under it, no?
What's that? I'm just asking before you jump to it.
Yeah,
quick,
sure.
I got a letter from Beth Fox, who is on the chair. She's a school board member of Governor Wentworth. She has been keeping me informed of the important school funding matters of the Conval lawsuit. And basically, good timing, and I told her I would share it with the board. Good timing on this ruling with the judge investigating how the state came up with a figure of $3,600 for an adequate education, and the judge said he found it without reason to come up with that number. Basically, the judge said it's up to the state legislature to determine the adequate amount, although the court can do that as necessary. And she sent, and I can send this out to all of you, but she sent the links to the articles about this. But basically, I believe the House had a $6,000 inadequacy figure, and the Senate budget was $650 more than that, so $6,650. And if the two committees hash out their differences and come to a budget, it would go to the governor. So this is why I called the governor the other day, is to say that asking the taxpayers to pay all of the funding for education is very, very difficult, especially for a school board. People of the community are not going to want to run for a school board if all of the funding comes from the taxpayers. And it's going to be interesting to see how. And so, yes, so if you could look these up, and yes, actually, they did listen to me. And
How close did you get to him?
yeah, they heard me though. He actually.
Just wait and call him next time he's on HEB.
But regardless, it did pass, and there is movement, and it could reduce, it could impact the taxpayer burden on the cost of education in New Hampshire, which is very valuable to everyone.
Yes, it is.
So,
Just, it would be nice if there was a larger effort to make sure that the funding through the lottery system actually didn't support the administration of the lottery system, went to the education of the kids like it was set up. But it's hard to grasp the idea that educating the children isn't fully on the taxpayers' shoulders. You know, I mean, everything, unless you have a student that you're sending to private school on your own pocket, you know, every child is entitled to education in the state of New Hampshire through taxation.
one last thing.
Okay.
Oh, we've got one other thing too at the end. Are we gonna read this letter?
Okay. Oh, do you want to do it first?
Pretty important.
It was our students, thank you, it's in the very last page of the.
You reading it?
Oh, I don't know. You received a letter from Brittany Focher, who was the recipient of the Wakefield School Board scholarships. I'll read the letter. It says, "Dear Wakefield School Board, I would like to take this opportunity to express my gratitude for your financial support through the Wakefield School Board Scholarship. I will now be able to pursue my post-secondary education with a little less stress. This donation is crucial to my financial situation whilst dealing with college fees and tuition. Once I graduate from Spalding High School, I will be attending St. Joseph's College in Standish, Maine. I will study fine arts and continue playing softball. There are many students out there struggling with college debt, and I couldn't be more thankful to be provided with such a generous award. Thank you so much. Sincerely, Brittany Fosher.
Nice, yeah.
Very nice letter.
Congratulations, Brittany.
I just was curious if you could give us an update on the requests of how many 91As this week and how many hours have been spent by the administration on 91A
Oh,
requests?
I've had 7 91A. Well, I had.
And by whom? Yep.
Well, I've had a number of requests from Jim Miller, Mr. Fogg, Mr. Lee, and
Lee.
David Lee.
David Lee. The bulk of that has, between Marie and myself, doing that last, as of right now, I think it's 28 hours of my time, our time.
Well,
That's a lot of time.
Okay,
Just
just
to be
please.
spent.
Okay, go ahead, sorry.
No, that's it. That's
Just please keep the log going. 28 hours of administrative time is almost a full week.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot, and it's a lot of time away from working with the students, and I realize everybody is certainly entitled to make a 91A, it's the law, and, but it isn't without consequences.
Ralph?
It's quite pertinent to the question, why is 91A request being submitted? And the reason for that is because transparency is not 100% with this board. Thank you.
Okay. I think there are attorneys in New Hampshire School Board Association that would certainly know that we have done as much research as we can to make sure we do it correctly. That has always been the objective of this board.
Absolutely.
It's a great goal to aim for.
It is. It has always been.
I think this, human.
Public comment? Seeing none?
nothing.
Gabe.
Gabe's good to go.
Seeing none? Hope that my agenda ends right there.
Yeah,
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I second it.
Oh, backside.
Oh, no,
Oh.
there's something on that.
Thank you. Save and take up.
Oh, here's the hip.
Oh, there's the thank you letter.
Yep. Yeah, that's why I was
Well,
wondering. Make a motion on public, Tracy?
Make a motion to go, oh, okay, sure. I didn't realize we are, okay.
Oh, we're
Make a motion to
non-public?
go into
Yes.
non-public, RSA 91-A:32A, the dismissal or promotion or compensation of any public employee or the disciplining of such an employee or the investigation of any charges against him or her, unless the employee affected, 1, has a right to a meeting, and 2, requests that the meeting be open, in which case the request shall be granted.
Second.
Roll call.
Ball guy.
Johnson, aye.
Cole by.
Will let I.
Macaulay, aye.
We don't need Jimmy.